Yes, we are live.
Thank you very much. So we're broadcasting live. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 2nd of September 2021. This is a meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee of the Royal Borough of Kensington, Chelsea, in the case to decide the case of Andrews Garage, 22 St Mark's Road, W11 1UF. My name is Greg Hammond. I'm councillor for Courtfield Ward in South Kensington, and I'll be chairing the proceedings today. I have no interest to declare in the case, but I have visited the site to familiarise myself with it. I'd like to ask the other two members of the committee present to introduce themselves, please, starting with Councillor Healy, please.
On mute.
I do apologise. Good morning, Chair. I'm Councillor Pat Healy. I represent Dalgarno Ward, which is north of St Andrews Garage, and I have no interest to declare.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rossi.
Hello, my name is Councillor Marie-Therese Rossi. I represent Redcliffe Ward, and I have no interest to declare. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. We three are the decision makers in this case, but we're assisted by a number of other parties in the room, starting with the legal officer, please.
Present, Chair.
And if you could introduce your name to everybody as well, please, Lindsay.
Apologies. My name is Lindsay Lemazurier. I work for the council as a solicitor, and I will be assisting the committee today with this hearing.
Thank you very much. And we have, I think we've got two licensing officers in today. Start with Mr. Phelan.
Good morning, Chair. Present, Paul Phelan.
Thanks very much. And Ms. McGann.
Good morning, Laura McGann here from Licensing, present.
Thanks very much. And which one of you is leading on which one of you got the speaking part today?
That was me, Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Phelan. Thanks very much. We also have a number of governance and technical officers present today. Yasmin, Hannah and Gareth I've seen. I won't ask them to introduce themselves, but they'll be keeping the meeting on track and working on the technical aspects of it. Now, the ground rules for an online meeting, please keep your microphones on mute, except when you're called to speak, to prevent any background noise. And it's also helpful if you don't, when you're not speaking, if you turn your cameras off to save bandwidth on Microsoft Teams. The chat function is not monitored, so it's not part of the meeting, so please don't use that. And also for those giving evidence, please do speak slowly and clearly, because on the panel we'll be taking notes. I've got the document check. We've only had one exhibit 1, the main bundle, which we've all read. That's 62 pages. So there's no need to read out your evidence again when you get to your part, but please do draw our attention to any parts in it that are relevant to you when you come to give your evidence. I need to move to an election of a substitute chair. The quorum for one of these meetings is 2 councillors, and in the unlikely event that I lose connection and can't get back in quickly, the meeting can proceed with the other 2 members. So I'd like to nominate Councillor Healy as the substitute chair, please. Is that seconded? By Councillor Rossi, perhaps?
Sorry, yes, seconded. I was just trying to unmute myself.
Thanks very much. And that's agreed then. So Councillor Healy is the substitute chair. The outline procedure for today, in a moment I'll be inviting the licensing officer to outline the case. Then I'll be giving the applicant's party 10 minutes to present their case. So let me just introduce the applicant now. Mr. Sivishankar.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, panel. Good morning, everybody who is attending. My name is Sivashankar, and I'm the agent representing Notting Hill Gate Filling Station Limited today, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And do you have any members of your party to introduce to us?
I don't, sir.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Mr. Sivishankar. So when we get to your case, I'll give you 10 minutes to present it, and then there'll be questions by the members, the legal officer, and the objector. Then we move to the objector, and I think it's Mr. Pennick. You're on mute, so if you'd like to introduce yourself and make sure you're hearing everybody. You're on mute.
How's that?
That's much better. Yes, we can
All
hear
right.
you.
Yeah,
And can you hear us?
I'm Adrian Penning. I live at number 1 Ruston Mews. I'm also director of the Ruston Mews Residents Association. I'm representing my views and those of other residents in the Mews.
Okay, thanks very much. Good morning to you, Mr. Penning. So when we come to your stage to present your case, again, I'll give you 10 minutes to present your case. That'll be followed by questions from members, the legal officer, and if he wishes to, the applicant. We'll then have a stage where I ask the legal officer to go through the potential conditions, which is without prejudice to the committee's decision. We won't have any summing up, and the case will close so the committee can make our decisions in private. So are there any other preliminary matters from parties before we make a start? I'll pause for a moment to see if anybody wants to shout out. So there aren't, so let's make a start. Mr. Phelan, would you like to present the outline of the case, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. Today's application is made by Notting Hill Gate Filling Station Limited for the grant of a premises licence at Andrews Garage, 22 St Mark's Road, London, W11 1WF. The applicant has described the premises as a shop within a petrol station selling general groceries with a hot food and drink takeaway counter situated within the shop itself. The current application before you today seeks the following licensable activities and timings: the sale by retail of alcohol off the premises, 8 AM until midnight, Monday to Sunday; the provision of late night refreshment outdoors, 11 PM until midnight, Monday to Sunday; and the hours the premises are open to the public are 5 AM until midnight, Monday to Sunday. This application did not attract a formal representation from any of the responsible authorities. 6 representations have been received which oppose this application. A summary of these representations can be found on pages 3 to 5, with full copies attached at Appendix C on pages 24 to 31 of the main bundle. This licensing authority has also received 1 representation supporting the application. A summary of this representation can be found on page 5, with a full copy attached at Appendix D, page 32. Council records also indicate that the premises received no complaints over the preceding 24 months. Council records also show that no temporary event notices were submitted within the same time frame. That concludes the summary of this application. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phelan. Now I'll turn to Mr. Sivashankar to present your case, and you've got 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. So as you know, this is currently a small service station. I think the shop is quite not very much operational. So this has been purchased by the Notting Hill Gate Filling Station Limited, and it is planned to bring in quite a bit of investment to redo the shop and the forecourt and the whole area. So this application is made on that basis. So initially we made the application for the premises to open from 5 o'clock in the morning till midnight every day. And as per guidance, we wanted to match the alcohol hours, but further to consultation with the police, we have reduced those hours to start alcohol sale from 8 o'clock and to finish close the petrol station at 2400 hours every day at midnight. But it is important to make the difference between opening hours and the sale of alcohol. So, there is nothing limiting this petrol station to operate 24 hours if it wants to, and that remains a consideration for the operator in future times. So it is important for the objectors to understand the opening times of the petrol station and the license are 2 different matters. Currently the opening hours are going to be from 5 o'clock in the morning till midnight, and the sale of alcohol is from 8 o'clock to midnight. Now we have also applied for late night refreshment just for the last hour, 1 hour, because it is proposed to have to serve hot coffees. There's a coffee machine to be available for people to have coffee, hot chocolate, that kind of thing. And even if you want to sell the coffee after 11 o'clock, we need a late night refreshment license. and that is part of it. And along with that, we will probably have a pastry counter, like sausage rolls, some pastries, hot pastries for people to take away. There are some representations I see people have talked about delivery drivers waiting outside. There is no cooking at the premises, which we have confirmed to the environmental health. There's not going to be any hot food takeaway as such. This is the only hot counter that we have. So this is for people who come to refill their cars while coming to the shop to buy something. They can get a coffee and a pastry, and that is all that is going to be through this late night refreshment part of it. There is no other cooking, no cooking at all at the premises. The premises currently apparently closes at 7 o'clock. It has been for some time. We understand that. But as a service station, this will has the right to open 24/7. But currently we are only planning to open till midnight. We think it actually will improve the area because there's going to be some activity. There's going to be cameras covering all over the area, capturing and deterring any crime that may have happened after 7 o'clock when it is too dark and the service station is closed. So we believe it is actually will be help to reduce the crime and disorder in the area. There is always concern from residents about street drinkers coming into the premises, and we have agreed some specific conditions with the police and has offered us the conditions that we won't be selling high strength alcohol, which is mainly attract street drinkers. So there won't be any alcohol, beers, ciders or lagers stored above 6% is what we have agreed, which automatically deters street drinkers attending the premises. There are some concerns by the residents about crime, and this place has been in the past been targeted by criminal element for cash and things like that. And as you know, since the pandemic also, now normal purchases are not done through cash, it's all credit cards and card payments. So we would expect more than 95% of the sales will be through card payments. There will be very little cash going to be at the premises. Even that will be through a proper safe procedures, and the police are happy with the proposals that we have provided to the police. So as you can see, sir, there is no representations on crime and disorder matter from the police, and no complaints from the responsible authorities regarding public nuisance that can happen through these operations. So we have satisfied on the licensing objectives from all responsible authorities that they are satisfied that this operation that we have currently proposing is not going to undermine any of the licensing objectives, given the risk assessments we have provided and has taken off as additional conditions. In my view, we don't envisage any further conditions required. I mean, I can see there are some conditions proposed by the legal officers for discussion, but we don't feel any of them and any additional restrictions are required as it moment, given there are no other representations from the police or any other responsible authorities. And the residents' concerns, I think, probably are not fully understanding what the late night provisions are, refreshment is, and also probably the initial application was from 5 o'clock in the morning. So we believe that we have, by reducing the hours and having only a takeaway counter for just pies, and this is not going to be a venue which is going to be causing any problems. That is all I have to say at this moment, and happy to take questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sivashankar. Let me turn to my colleagues first to see what, if any, questions they've got. We start with Councillor Healy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'll turn my camera on. That's better. Thank you. I think that was very informative. Could I just clarify the hours? You're seeking now to have an off licence from 8 a.m. until 2400, but the premises at the moment close at 7. I believe that's right. Does opening the petrol station itself until 2400 hours rely on whether or not you are granted a licence today? The
premises will be opening from 5 o'clock to midnight. whether
From
there is
when?
a license.
From when?
Once we have done the work, so there's quite a lot of works to be done, madam. So once the works are completed, that is the intention of the operator, is to open the premises from 5 to 12.
Do you have any idea how long this will take?
No, I mean, there is quite a bit of work is envisaged, so I am not in touch with regarding the works schedule.
And you said that you expect at least 90% of all financial transactions to be by some kind of card rather than by cash. Can you tell me what that's based on?
That's based on the current operations. I mean, there used to be a cash operation quite a bit, but since pandemic, most of it has been changed.
Yeah.
People have stopped using cash, and the current operation is very much off credit cards. And we are we are keen to sort of continue that trend, and we are not going to have cash transaction. We could encourage people to use cards only.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And finally, you've made quite a strong point that the introduction of CCTV and other measures will actually reduce crime in the area. Is that a hope, or is it based on any evidence?
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the current situation. If the premises closes at 7 o'clock, and after that, until next day opening, it is closed, no lighting in that area, no CCTV coverage. So it actually allows people to sort of maybe use that as an area to sort of use whatever they want to do. Whereas once we open, even after the premises closes at 12 o'clock, the CCTV will continue to work, continue to record. And we will be able to, if there's a concern brought by the police or the residents, something happened the night before, we will be able to go back and look at what has happened. And also, even for the residents, I mean, they will be now in an area when they come from work late at night during winters, there'll be an area more lit and monitored by CCTV. And that will actually automatically reduce crime in our view, madam.
Thank you. That's all.
Thanks very much, Councillor Healy. Let me turn to Councillor Rossi to see what questions you've got.
Yeah, just picking up on the CCTV, how many cameras will you have and how will they be monitored? You say that you could go back and look at them, but will anyone be actively monitoring the cameras, or will the police monitor the cameras?
While the premises are open, there will be a TV screen which displays all the camera images inside for the staff to see. But obviously, when the premises are closed, that is not monitored. However, we will be keeping records of CCTV images for 31 days. So you can go back and look at anything that has happened or any concerns the next morning or within a month. That will be available for the police and for the council officers.
And how many cameras do you intend to have?
Well, this probably we will be in discussion with the local police to see how much coverage, but we will want to cover all areas of the forecourt and the shop. And we are mindful that we don't want to sort of intrude in people's private areas. So we had to position the cameras. They mainly cover the whole of the forecourt area and inside the shop.
Okay, thank you. That's it for my questions.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rossi. Just one from me, Mr. Sivashankar, and recognising that the opening hours of the petrol station and the non-licensable activities are entirely a matter for your client. How important to you is the midnight end time for licensable activities?
Currently, so that's what is our client is very keen. As I say, he was keen to start from 5 o'clock when the premises is open, but obviously, we have taken quite a keen advice from the police, and we have restricted the hours. The closing time is quite important for him, 2400 hours, as when the police station as the petrol station closes, and we think that the measures we have put in place will address any of the concerns or any issues that could happen. But always, for the police and for the residents, there is always a review procedure available if they think that this is not working out. And we wouldn't really want to go for a review. I mean, if the police or any even the residents do feel that that is an issue, we would want to address that straight away. So it is not something that we are keen to sort of work with the residents and not to make a nuisance. That's very important for our clients.
And are you would you be willing to have regular meetings with the residents groups on a periodic basis?
This is something that I have actually spoken to my client when I saw those suggested conditions that come through. Now, the conditions suggested two meetings. I mean, we if that's what the panel think, that it is a constructive way forward, that we are happy to do that. But we think that it is more productive for us. I mean, we are going to have a logbook available at the premises, and if any of the residents has a particular concern, and either they can informally come and speak to the staff or the DPS, who is the director as well. And if they do want to make it a more of a formal complaint, they can always write their issues on that logbook, which can be then visible to see to the police and to the authorities. And also on that, any actions that we have taken, how we have addressed that concern, also has been written down by the DPS. So there is a record of that complaint, and what the action we have taken is on the logbook for any time to any authorities to see. We think that is a better procedure rather than having meetings. I mean, you can advertise, put a notice on the accounts on the window as suggested, and probably we have to have the meeting at the petrol station rather than anywhere else. People may turn up, people may not turn up, and it might be a more productive way. People are just walking there and write down if they have any particular issue, or they can informally speak to them.
Okay, thanks very much for that. We will return to that subject towards the end of the meeting when we go through the list of potential conditions in some detail.
Thank you.
I don't have any further questions, but I'm going to turn to Ms. Le Mesurier, who has actually got her hand up. It's her turn to ask questions anyway. So, Ms. Le Mesurier.
Thank you, Chair. There was just one question. I just wanted to know, will the CCTV be recording 24 hours or just during opening hours?
It's 24 hours. It's record 24 hours.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much for that. Now let me turn to Mr. Penning and ask if you've got any questions for the applicant. This is not your chance to make your case, it's just any questions for Mr. Sivishankar about what he's presented. And you're on mute, sir. Let me unmute you. See if I can do that. I can't. No, you'll have to do it yourself. I'm afraid I can't unmute you. There you are.
It mutes automatically for some reason. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. So your chance to ask questions of the applicant.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
All right, thanks very much indeed. In which case, well, you can keep yourself unmuted. Mr. Sivishankar, thank you very much. Mr. Penning, it's now your turn to make your case. And again, you have up to 10 minutes to talk to us, and then we'll be asking you questions. So over to you.
Thank you. Well, I live at number 1 Ruston Mews, and my bedroom is 20 yards from the garage, so I have a personal interest in this, but I know that's not particularly relevant to the inquiry. So I'll try and sum up what the residents feel about the main areas that are relevant to the inquiry. Starting with crime, I'm not convinced that the applicant has dealt with this issue. As you know, the garage is located next to the bridge on St Mark's Road and diagonally opposite Maxilla Gardens, an area that's been frequented regularly by groups of individuals drinking and taking drugs. Moulton Road around the corner is a well-known hangout for vagrants and alcoholics. The garage is in a residential street, but in an area which is more isolated, which has resulted in a number of car thefts in St Mark's Road, as well as from houses in the surrounding streets, including Ruston Mews. We put up a gate at the end of Ruston Mews to try and deter the crime, but thieves still follow residents in, and we report regular thefts. My motorcycle was stolen recently from outside my house. We feel that the sale of alcohol and lengthening of opening hours would be an unnecessary encouragement to individuals and groups to return to the area. And the CCTV, which was mentioned, will not cover the whole area And as police will confirm, and as we know because we have CCTV in the Mews, individuals can always find ways to ensure that they are not identified. The second issue, prevention of public nuisance. The extension of opening hours to midnight sell alcohol and fast food, coupled with the location of the garage forecourt and our adjoining Mews Road, offers a potential of a wide off-road space for groups to congregate and create a public nuisance through noise, litter, unruly behaviour and potential public decency infractions. Ruston Mews is a particularly narrow street, so any disturbance at the end of the Mews will echo up the street. Ruston Mews employs a street cleaner, and as we know that a lot of the litter is blown down the Mews from the garage. And we also know that the presence of litter bins is often ignored, and we can see that the litter problem will increase. Being located off-road, i.e. not just a pavement, groups will wait in the Mews chatting while one or two go in to purchase food and alcohol. A lot of people will stop buying cars. There'll be a lot of banging of doors, starting of engines as people stop and buy at the garage. The sign suggested to remind patrons of neighbouring residents, while welcome, will do little to deter this behaviour, as the garage will have little or no control over the customers while they're waiting outside or once they leave the premises. Finally, on public safety side, I'm sure that doing due diligence, you will have all been or will have a look at the area at night. You'll see that at the Mews end, not the garage forecourt necessarily, but the Mews end is a particularly dimly lit area. And many residents of Ruston Mews do not feel safe coming home late at night until they are through the gate at the end of our Mews, where you have to pause to put in the gate code in semi-darkness. And we would feel even less safe with people hanging around buying and drinking alcohol. Finally, we just don't think that another licensed premises is needed here when there are so many in the better lit, less residential Ladbroke Grove, just 250 yards away. And that's the summary of our case.
Thank you very much, Mr. Penning. Let me turn to my colleagues to see what questions they've got for you. Starting with Councillor Healy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Penning, you refer to fast food being sold, but we've heard that in fact all they'll be selling is pastries, that kind of thing, which are not made on the premises. Where do you get the idea that there's going to be fast food sold there?
Well, I think that's how you define fast food. I assume that pastries and pies and things like that is fast food. Okay. In that you go in and you buy it and it's fast.
Could you tell me why anybody would want to pay the higher price that is likely to be charged for alcohol from these premises? Why should people want to go there as opposed to Sainsbury's, which is open longer than this licence seeks to cover? I mean, Sainsbury's is open every day from 6 o'clock in the morning until 2400. That's 2 hours more than this licence seeks.
Sorry, I didn't hear that the applicant had talked about the pricing of the alcohol. Do you know it will be more expensive than buying it at Sainsbury's?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Do you know that it will be more expensive than buying it at Sainsbury's?
Sainsbury's has the advantage of economies of scale, so most of its prices are lower than in small shops outside. It is generally speaking, small shops charge more than supermarkets do. But the point of my question is that Sainsbury's, which is just down the road, is open for the sale of alcohol for longer than the hours on this that are applied for under this application. So why would people want to pay more to buy alcohol at these particular premises when they can do it cheaper for longer just down the road?
Sorry, you're asking why people would want to buy alcohol in the garage if they can buy it cheaper elsewhere. So, sure, that's a question you should address to the garage. Why sell alcohol if no one's going to buy it? I mean, sorry, I just don't understand the question. First of all, there's a presumption that it's going to be more expensive in the garage, which may not be the case. The garage owners might want to price it so that it's more reasonable to attract more customers. And if it's so expensive that people don't want to buy it, then why sell it? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
You have any further questions, Councillor Healy? No, your camera's off, so I'm assuming no. Councillor Rossi, please.
Yes, Mr. Pennick. Could you explain to me, or I don't quite understand. I understand that having the garage open later and selling food and alcohol will mean that there are more people around the area at night. But I don't quite see why that would necessarily lead to more crime, because the way I see it is that if there are more people, it might actually lead to less crime, and it might actually be safer to walk around if there are people popping into the garage to buy, I don't know, pastries or pies or whatever, and alcohol. So why do you think it will lead to perhaps more crime and not a safer environment?
Yeah, well, one issue is that most of the crime that happens in Ruston Mews is opportunist crime, where residents open the pedestrian gate or people drive their cars in through the main gate, and the people follow them in. And if you have people parking cars there and going into the garage to buy food or alcohol or to fill up with petrol or whatever, there'll be more opportunities for people to do that. There'll just be, yeah, exactly that.
Okay, thank you. That's my question.
Thanks, Councillor Rossi. Can I just pursue the same question, please? Because last night I went up there and I actually walked down Ruston Mews because the gate was open, but it was all very dark at the entrance with the garage being closed. Would it not be the case that it would be safer if there were lights on and people moving around? I mean, it was at 8:30 last night. It was quite dark and people could be hiding around there. But what do you say to that?
I don't think that the garage lights are going to light up. The key thing is what frightens residents of the Mews is when you go up to put the code in the gate, and that's when you're particularly vulnerable. And I don't think that the lights from the garage are going to light that up, as far as I can see.
Okay, I won't pursue that any further. You also heard me ask the applicant about the end time for the sale of licensable products at midnight. And I think, I mean, the fact that your bedroom is so close to the garage is a relevant factor because we're talking about public nuisance and disturbance. How important is the midnight time to you?
Well, if you go to bed, if you go to bed at 10 o'clock, it's hugely relevant. I mean, it's a massive disruption to everybody who lives, particularly at that end of the Mews. I mean, you can imagine cars pulling up, doors banging, people chatting. It would be a complete nightmare for us.
Okay, but recognising that the licensing committee has no powers over the garage's opening hours and they could open 24/7 if they wished to. But what difference do you think the sale of licensable products up to midnight would make?
Well, some of the reasons that I mentioned about attracting crime to the area, and also people just stopping out on the street to come in and buy alcohol and food, not necessarily petrol, but specifically coming for that reason, is going to increase the number of cars and the amount of noise.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your answer. I'm just going to turn to my colleagues, see if they have anything further before I move on to the legal advisor, see if she's got any questions. Nothing more from colleagues not putting their hands up. Ms. Le Mesurier, do you have any questions for the objector?
No questions from me, Chair.
Thanks very much. Mr. Sivashankar, do you have any questions you'd like to put to the objector?
No, thank you, Chair. I think it's been asked already.
All right, thank you very much indeed. And Mr. Penning, thank you very much indeed for giving evidence to us today and for answering our questions. I'm now going to ask the legal advisor to come on and go through the list of potential conditions. This is without prejudice to the panel's decision on whether we grant or not, but we do need to go through in some detail what conditions we might apply. So, Ms. Mesurier, let me hand over to you, and you can take us through this bit, please.
Thank you, Chair. As you can see, there were 8 conditions offered by the applicant, and I've transposed them into our standard model conditions. And I've also, having read the objections, I've also applied some conditions which, if the committee were minded to grant this application, which I think will cover the objector's concerns. So can we go to further down on page 2, where it says additional suggested conditions number 1, because I've incorporated the agent's conditions into these conditions. So, Mr. Sivashankar, in relation to my proposed condition number 1 and 2, which concerns staff training, which I don't think is controversial, are you happy to agree to those 2 conditions, please?
So condition 1 and condition 2, yes, we are happy with that.
You're happy with both of them, thank you. Turn to condition 3, which is our standard CCTV condition, although in G, you may have some points to raise on that. Are you happy with the CCTV condition A to F, and then we can discuss G? It is our standard condition.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine for us.
Fine. And then turning to G, I just wanted to clarify, which says all entry and exit points, and then in brackets I've put and areas where the public have access. So I think I don't know if you know the answer to this. It would have been helpful perhaps if Mr. Karam was here. What your thoughts on G were? I mean,
we generally would capture a full frontal at the entrance of the shop. I mean, that is coming inside the shop to purchase any stuff, because I mean, in the service station, as you know, some of the pumps, most of the pumps now will have payment at the pump. So if they don't want to come to purchase any product at all, then the license is not come into place, and we wouldn't want to capture that images in that detail. So only when people want to come in to enter the shop, that's where we will capture the full frontal image of a customer.
Okay, so what about like the forecourt area, but obviously not intruding?
Forecourt area there will be cameras, but I don't think they will capture in that sort of detail of full frontal image of persons.
Okay.
Because as I say, you know, if they just come to take fuel, pay at pump and go leave, then you know this hasn't got anything to do with the license.
Okay, so the forecourt CCTV, so the cameras on the forecourt won't be necessarily show frontal identification, but as people go into the shop and exit the shop itself, that's possible.
That's where they will be captured either way. Yes.
Fine. Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, if any of the councillors or the objector has anything to say in relation to these conditions, if they could pipe up at this time, it will be helpful. Going on to number 4, please. Again,
yeah, that's we have already heard as a condition anyway.
You're fine with that, thank you. And number 5, I mean, this condition is usually applied to, to deter street drinkers. I mean, is your client happy not to sell single cans of beer?
Well, I mean, number 4 is to deter street drinkers, and we have taken that on with the police advice to say that will deter street drinkers. This is, I mean, I have seen this condition in places where there is a persistent problem of street drinking. So I would say at this moment in time, I'm not keen. But if there is a problem continues, or even with the number 4 condition, still there are street drinkers, which I am very much doubt there will be if we are not selling more than 6%. Then obviously we are happy to look at something later at a later date. At this moment in time, we don't think that is needed.
But at this present time, you're not selling alcohol at the premises, so you obviously we don't know for sure whether it will or won't be a problem. I guess it's for the councillors to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're not particularly keen on condition 5, but obviously that is for the councillors to consider. Number 6, well, I don't think that should be problematic, but are you happy with that?
No, that's fine. Yes,
you're fine with that. Okay. Turning to number 7, I think when I was looking at your premises licence plan, which is, I'm just trying to find the page in the main committee pack, I think it was page 21. I was just trying to work out where everything was kept. It looks like when you enter the shop, there's a long counter, and behind the counter you've got spirits, and then behind, slightly beyond the counter, you've got the off-licence section and the beer section.
Wines, yes. Yeah.
So obviously it's important that that's monitored. In relation to,
I mean, my view is, I mean, Section 137 of the Licensing Act, there is an offence anyway, criminal offence for exposing alcohol for unauthorised activities.
Yes.
So our client has to make some arrangements to cover them up between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the current hours, if it is granted as it is.
Yes.
And lockable shutters and things like that, I think they are over the top, I think, because we are now trying to gold plate an offence that is already written in the Licensing Act.
Right, so going back to condition 7, where it's saying all display units for alcohol shall have lockable shutters. The shutter shall be closed and locked at the end of permitted hours for the sale of alcohol, and shall not be unlocked again whilst the premises is open until the start of permitted hours the following day. All alcoholic drinks which are not behind the counter are to be locked in cabinets during such times. What is your view on that condition?
Well, as I say, that's a bit over the top. I think that is gold plating the Licensing Act, I think, which is the guidance say that shouldn't be the case. I mean, there is an order, as I say, if the alcohol is open outside those hours, he is committing a criminal offence, and the authority and the police has powers to prosecute them. So I really don't need an additional cost. That's quite an additional cost for the applicant for putting lockable shutters.
Okay, and how are they going to prevent someone stealing from those cabinets? Well, obviously, they wouldn't knowingly sell or allow people to access those cabinets, during out of hours, so to speak. But obviously, for example, the chilled beer, the chilled wine, may be the off, where it says off license, just behind the person sitting at the end of the counter. How are you going to? I
mean, shoplifting happens all the time, right? I mean, we can't put everything under the shutters just because people are taking stuff. I mean, that's something that's why CCTV is there, that's why staff members are there. They will have to deal with that.
Okay. Obviously that's up to the councillors to come to reach a view on, but obviously I just wanted to raise that. So you're not happy with that condition?
I don't really see, unless otherwise there is a persistent problem, police or somebody identifies in that premises and then say, because of the persistent problem we are asking for this condition, probably we'll be happy to look at it at the time, and we probably, without even you asking, we might even put it at that time if there is a persistent problem. Without that, this is quite an additional expense, when there is already a remedy for exposing alcohol outside hours anyway.
Okay, fine. Okay, going on to number 8, I don't think that's controversial.
Yeah, well, that's the law anyway. We can't say
that. Obviously, number 9, the spirits is behind the counter anyway, so you're happy with that.
Again, we have, our design is like that anyway.
Turning on to number 10, all authorisations of staff for the supply of alcohol by the DPS or personal licence holders to be recorded in writing. You're fine with that?
Not a problem.
Number 11, which is just the model.
Yes, that's absolutely fine. Yes.
Fine. Put posters saying challenge 25, condition 12.
Yes, absolutely.
Number 13.
Yes, it would be.
Number 14, I think you've already alluded to having a daily incident log. Is that okay?
Yes, it will be, yes.
And then number 15, a dedicated telephone number for anyone who wishes to make...
Happy to, no problem.
You're happy with that? Thank you. 15. 16, I think this is your notice one. Are you happy with that?
Yes.
Right, this is the one where you weren't too sure.
Yes, I think I touched upon this.
You're not happy with this, or would you rather, do you have a view?
I'd rather have our residents walk in and either have a chat with the staff, or if they really want something taken more seriously, to write it down on the logbook, so that we can then reply to that on the logbook and to the particular resident who raised it. I think it is more productive for us and for the residents, I think. Okay. If the councillors were minded to impose this condition, what's your view on how many times the meeting should be held a year? And I mean, my worry is not the number of times. My worry is if nobody attend, what happens then? Well, we can't force the residents to come to the meeting. No, of course you can't. But obviously, they may wish to attend, so it's to cover that scenario, I guess. I mean, if again, on the logbook, if a couple of customers come and write about the same problem and they say we would like to have a meeting with all the residents, we will have them. Okay. And I just don't want it to be a condition. Then by not having one meeting or people not turning up, or it is not happened in the satisfaction of the residents, the meeting, then suddenly we are in a criminal breach. Right. Understood. But
could I just interject there, please? I've heard everything that Mr. Sivashankar has said about this. Could I just bring Mr. Penning in, please, and ask you, sir, what your view is on our putting a condition on, if we were minded to grant this licence, about formal meetings with the residents group on a periodic basis that we decide, or would you perhaps be happy with what Mr. Sivashankar is saying and having the arrangement that you can pop in there informally and have a meeting with them? What are your views on that? You're on mute again, sir, I'm afraid. Still on mute. Yeah, there we are.
I got it. Well, we're going to be neighbours if this happens, which we hope that licence for alcohol doesn't happen. But if it does happen, we're going to be neighbours, and so we have to get on. And I think it's really important to start a relationship like that with a discussion about how things are going to work. I mean, that's, most of the fears of this kind of thing are the fears of the unknown and the fears of the new, and how lives are going to change and be disrupted and all that sort of thing. And I think it would be extremely valuable to have an initial meeting with the owners where all of these issues can be discussed, and then, yes, to have regular issues where we can bring up the things that we are finding annoying or areas of dispute that then can be worked out between us. So I disagree with the applicant. I think it would be very useful to have regular meetings. Yeah.
And by regular, what would be your view on how regular? I mean, I've seen these done where it's twice a year, 4 times a year.
Yeah. Well, it obviously depends on the number of issues that are coming up to some degree, but I think on a quarterly basis would be fair enough. And I'm sure that there would be, if the applicant's worried about nobody turning up, I can promise you that won't be the case, because we've got a very good residents association and a lot of people pitch in, so I'm sure there would be people there to represent the residents' views.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Mr. Penning. We've heard what you've had to say. We've also heard what Mr. Sivashankar has had to say, and we'll decide that as and when we get to that stage in our decision-making process. Mr. Lamazire, may I ask you to carry on, please?
Thank you. Just to finish off that condition 17, if you were minded to impose it, the licence holder would be notifying the local residents associations, and then in brackets I put "and the residents of," but presumably Ruston Mews Residents Association is the residents association. And would they cover, is it Cervantes House, and is there anywhere else that would be affected? Mr. Penning, sorry.
Oh, sorry, it's a question for me. We don't cover Cervantes Court, no. Where the main residents association, there may be residents associations on the other side of St Mark's Road that I don't know about. Okay,
so you just cover your Ruston Mews then?
Yeah, the residents actually within the gates of Ruston Mews, correct.
Okay, Chair, I believe Mr. Sivashankar has his hand up.
He has, yes. So Mr. Sivashankar, come on in. And
thank you, Chair. I mean, if this condition is, if you minded to grant the license and with this condition, where do we hold these meetings? I mean, is that going to be stipulated? Because I don't know, I'm not very sure that we can hold these meetings in the shop. I'm not sure whether there is resident associations have any meeting rooms available. I mean, if 15, 20 people turned up, we need to facilitate that meeting, and it's going to be additional costs if we have to now hire a hall, arrange. I don't know how that happens.
I think you can hold it standing up in the garage forecourts if we decide to have it, but that's for us to consider later on. Let's move on, Mr. Lemazurier.
Thank you. Right, going on to condition 18. This just deals with the objectors' concerns about litter. Are you happy with condition 18?
Obviously, we are happy. We will. I mean, that is our responsibility to keep sure that our forecourt is kept clean, and we can probably do a little bit further from the forecourt if they are our rubbish. And I'm just a bit concerned that this is turned into a rubbish cleaning exercise for the neighbourhood, which we don't have any responsible for. Right. We have rubbish bins, and we will make sure that the forecourt is kept clean and clear all the times. But
this condition currently just covers outside the premises, so obviously presumably that would be the premises rubbish. How many times would you consider acceptable?
I mean, obviously we have to make sure that in the morning when we open the premises it is clean, when we close the premises it is clean, and probably there's one in the afternoon. We will make sure that some patrol happens.
Okay, thank you. Right, conditions 19, 20 and 21, again, are standard conditions, rubbish, refuse and deliveries. What is
they are all fine. Yeah, we have all
with the times on them, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I don't think anything else has cropped up during the course of the discussions. Councillors, are there any other conditions which you think you might wish to add?
Let me turn to my colleagues. I have none, but I'll give a short pause for Councillor Healy, Councillor Rossi.
I have none.
Thank you, Councillor. Thanks very much, Councillor Rossi. Councillor Healy, do you have anything you want to discuss conditions-wise?
No, thank you, Chair.
Great, thanks very much. Mr. Lemazurier, is there anything else from you before we close the hearing?
Nothing from me, Chair.
All right, let me just turn to the licensing team. Mr. Phelan, is there anything we need to cover from your perspective before we close down today?
Nothing from me, Chair.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you all very much for your attendance. The panel will retire to our private online room to make our decision. That decision will follow in writing within 5 working days, so we won't be announcing it today. So it's just for me to say thank you to everybody for attending and giving us your representations this morning. We've much appreciated the time you've spent and the clarity of your submissions. So thank you all very much and wish everybody good morning. And the panel will meet in 5 minutes in the other room.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Can end the broadcast now. Thank you.